Disclaimer, this video is meant to be an educational account of my experience using a potentially dangerous substance. I'm not confessing to any acts mentioned in this video. I aim to inform folks of the risks and consequences of using illicit substances. Do not try anything I mentioned my younger self having done in this video.
You know what's funny? Public masturbation. But you know what else is funny? Recently I've been watching a lot of videos from a channel called Goblin. Goblin, he's about to hit 1 million subscribers. Shout out to Goblin, go check his videos out after this one. But I found him like in 2023 and he had like 200K and he just was posting his gameplay footage talking about all the drugs he tried in high school and all the adventures he got into. And since then I've kind of been considering like, hey, maybe I can make videos like that, because where I come from, I did a lot of drugs in high school and tried a variety of pills and potions myself. And you might be asking, Lou, what does this have to do with outside? Well, I'll get to that, because recently I was reminded of what I thought would be a good story to tell, which I'm going to tell today, which is my first time ever trying ecstasy, or MDMA. I think. We didn't test it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And this was, first of all, I mentioned Goblin not only because he kind of inspired me to tell a story, but because I also just received a box of his magic trees, which I tried. I figured now YouTubers are selling magic trees, I could buy them legally. Shout out to the Farm Bill 2018. And so I'm just gonna roll up while I speak to you, and maybe I'll put in my game footage instead on top, or you could just watch me roll up. I can kind of review this real quick, which I haven't opened yet, okay? This got all great reviews on his website before I purchased. Price was okay. And the only thing was some of the reviews said this wasn't the strain I ordered, but it still knocked my socks up. So first, let's see if it's the strain I ordered. All right, so I've opened my box. I pulled up my receipt of my email to remind myself what the strain was called that I purchased, which is Snowing Candy Ice Flash THCA flower. I had never heard of that prior to visiting Goblin's website. I looked it up on Leafly, my most trusted source of like strain information when I am not familiar with a flavor of magic trees, which you can also use to learn about the potency, what farm or like what company produced it, as well as like what kind of effects it should provide, and like if it's a hybrid, indica, sativa, dominant, what have you. So let's take a look. Drum roll. What's the flavor? Snowing Candy Ice Flash. There it is, as you can see. See if you can read that. That is what it says on this bag. And that's what it says on this bag too. And that's what it says on this bag 3. Forgetting how much I bought here. That's what it says on this bag as well. Okay, so these are... All right, I've switched cameras to my webcam here. Not as good quality, but my iPhone ran out of space, so I'm currently pumping that last clip up to the Google Drive with my iPhone. Sorry, but this quality is good enough. Just want to mention, this box I got 14 grams, so they got me with 3 of these bags of 3.5s. This says only mids, okay? His website's called Only Gas. That's his brand. Only mids, though, on my package. And if we take a look, let's open this up and take a look at said mids. Didn't know I was buying mids, but, you know, it was a pretty good price. Okay, let's take a look. Ooh, yeah, looks and smells fairly, you know, some nice mids, but man, this is really hard to check out with the camera. I'll probably put in some pictures with the iPhone soon, or maybe the next clip, but smells mid, but rather delightfully mid, I might add. Not a huge mid smoker, you know, but for the past year I've just been smoking something from my local dispensary, if you want to call it that. Actually, I've been buying it just from a smoke shop. It's not just THCA. You don't know medical card, but you know, very, very dark nugs. I'm holding onto a stem, but as you could see, barely. There is some orange going on, some different color hairs and whatnot. I'm not a professional on all the terms used to describe a good nug of weed, but you know, not too many glistening trichomes to be seen, but it does have a bit of a tantalizing aroma, which indicates to me, based on my prior experience, which is like 12 years smoking magic trees, that this is some nice meds, and I'm excited to try it out. And I'm excited it's legal. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't know, you can purchase the THCA weed online, and it's the same as normal weed. It's just slightly different in how it's cured, produced to be compliant with these farm bills, which this also just came with the weed, but it came with this little notice to UPS, to the handlers, if anyone gets nosy. Okay, while the package is en route, you can scan this to see the lab tests of this weed, which indicate, as it states here, that this package meets the criteria set forth by the postal bulletin. Hold on, that's the wrong thing. What you scan shows the certificate of analysis. As you'll see, the Delta 9 THC concentrations do not exceed 0.3%. And I just wanted to mention this because not only is this tree legal, that's why it's legal, but it's not so high in THC that you're going to get baked out of your mind every time you smoke it. And then, if you get into a habit of smoking it, make progressively dumber and dumber decisions, as I've been one to do in my youth when I used to just buy the magic trees from old boy in my town, who got it from the farmer over yonder, wherever the hell he got it, And I like that because with the trees I've been smoking from the smoke shop, we'll see how this goes. I don't build a tolerance. When I was a kid, I'd get this crazy weed, and it was amazing, but we had a good selection where I come from. I don't know if you've been to Ithaca, New York, but there's a lot of farmland over there, and a lot of those farms are farming weed with high THC weed, and they're getting it shipped in. Who knows? But I would be getting baked, and when I got in the habit of smoking regularly, it wasn't long before I was regularly smoking regularly. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't smoking Reggie, if you know what I mean. And I wasn't smoking mids either. A lot of the time, a lot of my youth, I was smoking that good pack. I was smoking loud. I was getting high THC weed, at least in the 10s, 20% THC. I was baked off my ass. I made a lot of dumb decisions, wasted a lot of time as a teenager smoking this kush, and it made me want to smoke more kush. Like, it was easy to get in the habit of just always being stoned. You had side effects when you stop. You can't sleep, you can't eat without being high. But for the past year, I've been smoking this legal weed, and just a little bit gets me nice and stoned after a long day, helps me eat one more meal so I can keep bulking up, become a bigger Lou. And, I'm a bit fried and sillier than the normal, some might say. But aside from making me want to make more music and make more videos, there's like no downsides. I haven't been increasing my dosage. I don't even smoke a whole joint every night. A few puffs. But so that's just some of the benefits I wanted to illuminate, advocate for this legal weed instead of risking your, freedom potentially, buying it on the street, and maybe, who knows what they're doing. I know they're doing this with drugs these days, like the MDMA I'm going to speak about shortly, but who knows if they're sprinkling something foul on the weed, trying to, make an extra buck or save some weed, trust me when I tell you, a lot of these drug dealers who also sell pot, or a lot of these pot dealers also are just drug dealers, and they just want to make a buck, and they don't really care about people's health, okay? When I used to do it, I cared about people's health. But I also didn't make that much money. And, I just sold a little bit of weed. But in GTA, never in real life. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to roll this up, and then we'll hit the patio, get on with the story before I start yapping your head off, huh? Like the video if you're excited. Let's do this.
Let's do this.
Actually, so I don't get carried away having to, take puffs while I'm telling this story, I'm just going to go ahead and tell it while I roll up. So, this story takes place in Ithaca, New York, where I grew up as a teenager, like I mentioned, in, I believe, 2014. This was summertime, I believe. It may have been a day after school, but I'm pretty sure it was during the summer break, like after my junior year of high school, which would have been summer 2014, okay? And I had met up with a friend of mine, I think specifically just to get this ecstasy. Just conversation, something like, hey Lou, I got some of that Molly. We just call it Molly, but it was the people I knew, I was pretty confident they knew where to get their substances, and we'll learn more about that later. But I had this friend, we'll call him Max, and Max was probably like this was a while ago, so I don't remember exactly why we might have just been hanging out to smoke. I don't even know if we smoked. I think we did. We were probably just hanging out to smoke, and then maybe I pulled up on Max, and he was with our friend. We'll call him Osama because he was a bit like Middle Eastern or something like that. Osama had this yellow Audi TT. He was in the cars working at a pizza joint. He's like 17 with an Audi TT. What do those cost, man? We'll look it up. Maybe I'll insert a graphic of what those cost back then. But he just spent all his money on cars. He got this crazy coupe, Audi TT. He later drove us in it super fast. Anyway, I meet him at this parking garage downtown. My high school was downtown. You take a 30-minute walk, you're downtown. So I go to this parking lot. We got my buddy Max in the back of Osama's Audi TT. Okay. And we probably smoked a little bit. Magic trees. Oop, I just dropped some magic trees on the floor. And I went ahead. Let me see. Can you see the roll cam? See me rolling up while I do this, maybe, huh? So, well, I jump in Osama's car. And bear with me, folks. This is my first, like, story time story. I'm just kind of freestyling here and remembering at the same time. But I'm in Osama's car. Max is in the back. We're smoking. And Max is like, hey, man, I got a little something if you want to try something new. I don't know if you've ever tried ecstasy, but I have a little capsule. And he showed me a little capsule, clear capsule, with a clear crystal, like one single shard of a crystal inside. And he tells me, yeah, that should be a good enough dose for your first time. Just, make sure, you could take it when your mom's asleep. I lived with my mom at the time, don't, mess around and get too high in front of your family now. They might not like that. And, you could just vibe out, hang out, listen to music. You might get a little excited. You might be up a little late. But if you're down for that, take this. It'll be a good time, After you come down from when we smoke, you get high again. And I was like, all right. I didn't have anything better to do back then. And you got to understand, Ithaca, New York, where we were at the time, I mean, yeah, it was like kind of springtime, summertime. The weather wasn't bad. But where I come from, there's not a whole lot to do. There's a couple universities, but unless you're trying to, as a high schooler, unless you're trying to sneak into like a college frat party, which I did later on, but this was about when I started doing that type of stuff. But usually I just loved being outside. I loved running back then. High school is when I started running, so I was already Lou Runs. And when I wasn't running, I was still outside going on hikes, smoking magic trees, and exploring the world around me. You know what I'm saying? And, obviously this led to trying some other potions and pills and stuff like that, which you'll hear more about if this video gets enough likes. Comment if you want me to tell more stories. Okay, I'm having fun. Hope you're having fun too, listening. But anyway, I go ahead and agree to take this little capsule. I might have thrown him like a $10 bill or something. And I had ridden my bike to meet up with them. If this may have been a school night, but just, maybe I didn't have a lot of homework. I didn't have track practice or something. Maybe track season had ended. Something like, it was either like almost summertime or it was summertime. But either way, if I had gone to school, I had ridden my bike, and this was later after school. So I had ridden my bike to meet these guys. And basically right after I get this ecstasy pill, my friends have to leave. So I'm pretty sure I just biked home after that. And the way Ithaca's set up, it's like a bowl. So like a valley, there's a lake in the middle, but I kind of lived at the top of one hill. So to go into town or go to school, I'd have to bike down a hill, and then to get back home from downtown, I'd have to bike up. So I'm biking up this hill, and I just went and took this, I swallowed this capsule, the whole thing, with the crystal inside, basically right after I got it, I'm pretty sure. And I had ridden my bike up the hill, okay, and made it about like 75-80% of the way home, maybe even like 85%, okay. And I had basically done the heavy lifting, so to speak. The hardest hills were behind me, okay. I'm getting a bit of a pump, because I'm doing cardio. I'm riding my bike, right? And I feel like I wish you could see my face and my bud, but I'll show you the joint when I'm done. I'm getting a bit of a pump, not feeling. I didn't think I was feeling anything too crazy yet. I wouldn't say I was on ecstasy, right? But I'm 80% of the way home, and where I was at that time was this golf course. And it was a golf course with not the busiest street, but there was like It's a big university where I live, Cornell University. They have a golf course, little center where you can pull up and play golf and park your car. And I'd been just beyond that. Okay, and my mom's house was just up another hill from there. But I'm on this street, and something had just came over me. I don't know what got into me. Actually, I think I do know what got into me, and I think that was MDMA, which is ecstasy, because I was just so overcome by arousal, which had never before happened to me while I'm riding a bike. I, if you're a man, you know that like it's kind of hard to get too aroused, erect even, while you're like mid exercise. This has never happened while I've run. Um, might have shit myself while running before, but never,
Huh?
But I swear I'm like damn near erect, if
Hey,
not
yo!
already erect. Not to get too graphic. Might have to censor some of this. We'll see how YouTube likes it. But I'm just so aroused. I decided to pull over on the side of the street. Okay, and where upstate New York where I live, they got these little drainage ditches on each side of the street. So I kind of pull over. I pull my bike over the other side of the drainage ditch where there's a big clump of bushes and a big tree, a lot of bushes, and I just kind of tuck my bike behind the bushes, and then I get behind the bushes so like if any cars pass by, they wouldn't be able to see, and I just had this urge, uncontrollable urge, to just go and relieve myself, if you will, in the bushes.
Huh?
Broad daylight. Like this was maybe evening almost, but the sun was still out. The sun wasn't going down that early. And there were cars driving by, not too many, but there were definitely at least a few cars that drove by, and like, one might think, Lou, like you're into that, and hey, maybe I am. I had done a couple adult activities before this, even though I was just a teenager. I might have started a little too early. That's up for debate. But maybe I am kind of like an exhibitionist to some degree, but that was not my plan for this day. But once that roll started coming on, I was just rolling right along to the bushes to crank my dong. So that's exactly what I did, and it sounds crazy looking back because I've never done that since. Um, and yeah, I've damn near never done ecstasy since. I have a few times, but basically after that, I finished up, probably shot in the bush. I, put, put that thing away, got back on my bike, biked home, and I don't really remember too much of like what followed after that. I probably said hi to my mom, maybe said hi to my sister. Once I was like back in the house, I put my bike away and maybe played video games for a little bit, and then they fell asleep eventually. And I remember just being up for several hours later that night, obviously, once the roll had definitely come on. And I was listening to music, like house music. Oons, oons, oons might have been pumping my fist like Jersey Shore. And I just vibed out and had a great time for the rest of the night. I don't know, maybe played a few video games. But basically just listened to music with my headphones when everyone was asleep. And like just, I had this urge to dance, but it was kind of tough because I had a really small bedroom and I couldn't, let loose like I wanted to. I had hardwood floors that would creak. We lived on the second floor. So I couldn't just let loose, but as much as I can, I was just kind of, bobbing my head very aggressively. And I don't remember, if I was grinding my teeth or any of the other classic effects of the ecstasy at that point, maybe, but I don't remember that much. But I know, later times I've maybe done this substance once or twice since then, and might have felt a little bit of that, but nothing too crazy. I've never really had a bad time with ecstasy. But that definitely is the first time, and it stands out because I've never, my other roles, I was like at a music festival. I didn't even at a music festival, I never even did anything that crazy. Like, looking back now, I don't do anything like that. I'm like, wow, bro, like I was just young teenager cranking off in the bushes, rolling on that Molly. And, so basically, don't do drugs, kids, unless you just want to be rubbing one out in the bushes outside, which is a crime. Okay, I'm thankful I didn't get caught. If I did, who knows what would have happened. But you don't want to invite the law into your life. Don't do anything illegal. That's senseless. You don't have to do that. You know what I'm saying? If you want to get high and horned up, do it in a private place. Okay, control yourself. Back then, I was a younger kid, first time trying ecstasy. I was just doing it outside, reckless. Who knows what could have happened? Something else could have happened. But that happened. I didn't see that happening. But like I said, it happened. And unfortunately, I made it out okay. Didn't get arrested. Didn't offend anybody. But, I think we can agree that's kind of like a fairly offensive act, if somebody caught me doing it. Thank God I was stealthy. But, you don't want to take those kind of risks, you know what I'm saying, with your freedom. You know, that's kind of like an obscene thing to be caught doing. It's like, why risk it? You know what I'm saying? And nowadays, I never do anything like that. But I hope you enjoyed. I didn't roll up this joint, so let me speed run to the future, give it a couple puffs, and let me know. Let me let you know what I think of it, because that's about the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it, but let's check this tree out, shall we? All right, I'm on the patio. Guess what time it is? J at Clay, according to my watch. And what's this? It's a J. So, let's go while this plane flies over me. Gotta be gentle with it. A gentle smoke so far. This here goblin flower, that's because I didn't light it all the way. Hold on. Show you how to light your joints. I should do it. Might hear some peacocks nearby. Tastes pretty good. Tastes kind of like that name made me think it would taste like cotton candy or something. It was like candy ice flash or something. Quite sweet indeed, and it's still not lit. Hold on. So you want to just hit the end, and then I'd slowly rotate. This is a fatter one, and I've been rolling lately. I'm out of practice. Ooh, that was quite tasty. There we go. I think I've got a uniform burn going, controlled burn, like they're doing in California or whatever. Or that was like uncontrolled burn. Rest in peace to everyone. Or everyone's belongings who lost stuff in the fire. It definitely tastes good. I'll check back with you in a few puffs, see how I'm feeling. It's already kind of hitting me a little bit, but I'm kind of waiting to see. I'm a bit more relaxed, but I was relaxed before, so it's kind of hard trying to test out strains for me. You know, I just get straight to whatever activity I was gonna do, and that's usually how I gauge how the tree hits me, because so far I could just, it tastes pretty good. Nothing too crazy though. It is, I guess a mid, according to Goblin himself, but I like it. Crazy ash there, did you see? Just kind of ashed on my pants a bit, but it definitely is smooth smoke. And I think I'm starting to feel it, Mr. Krabs. Like starting to feel it fully. I was, feeling it as soon as I inhaled, but that's why I like smoking too, better than the vaping and the vapes. The vapes kind of creep up, sneak up on me. Same with edibles. I don't really do that. But I have a story about edibles I could tell later if you want to hear. Only memorable edible experience I remember was in high school as well. Also, my first time with edibles, if I remember right. A good time. But let me know if you want to hear the edible story in the comments. I'll tell that later. Trying to think, this could do it for this video. I'm feeling good, mid or not. Hey, the weed doesn't have to be light green to do the job, I think. I'd say no. I'll check back in a few minutes when I start cooking my lunch here, and let you know how I'm feeling then. Unless I forget, in which case, thanks so much for watching the video. Let me know what you want to see next. Lou Choofs and Lou Runs. I'll see you later. Till next time.